So I'm in a very male-dominated field.
Do not send pics unless there's been an invitation sent. Instead of getting in trouble with the law, just read and follow normal social, societal boundaries.
Women are coming out, but are women being believed?
When women say that we feel safer around a beer than a man, it is solidly based in statistics.
I think the dating rules in general are just like in constant flux.
The beers are winning, okay? The beers are winning.
People do that?
Yes.
Did the Me Too movement make a difference? Are we, in fact, in a post-Me Too era? What are the new rules of engagement when it comes to workplace communication and dating? What everyday dating practices may be considered illegal? Find out the do's and don't get yourself in trouble on this episode as we have a candid conversation with Dr. Onika Noel. We thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to do what? Click subscribe.
So it's hard to believe that we are literally almost 2 decades later since we first heard the term Me Too. The question is, was the Me Too movement effective? What really are the results? And how has it changed the way people date now? Are men comfortable coming and approaching women, or have things changed? Hi, Dr. Noel. Thank you so very much for joining us back on this very interesting topic. So, I know that you're very familiar with the Me Too movement, and the Me Too movement, even though we have used this particular movement to really address a more broader topic of women's issues and women's experiences in the US, the Me Too movement really focused on the workplace and what happened in the workplace. Now, it's been 18 years later. Have you noticed any differences in the workplaces when it comes to how women are treated?
So I'm in a very male-dominated field. So it's actually given me a chance to reflect on that, like what things were like when I first started off training and what the attitudes are now. I do think it has changed things in the workplace. I think men are less, again, I'm in a space where it's male dominated, it's surgical, and it deals with male genitalia often. So as a woman, you get these comments from your patients. You expect some of these comments from your patients, and then you have to deal with comments coming from your male colleagues. And I found that over the course of training, a lot more attention has been paid to that. And especially as women have advanced in leadership roles within our like academic societies. And so, we have meetings, we talk about these things. They do make it to the main stage of our forums. So it does have an impact. One of the things I'm also noticing is repercussions for people who have been in the field for decades and having issues with when it comes to sexual harassment, that there's a lot more of a zero tolerance type of a stance. It's dealt with pretty swiftly. And I think in the past, there was a lot of things that are swept under the rug. So I think we have been making progress.
That's very true. And I will definitely say, I feel like even though I'm in the opposite end, I'm in a female dominated area. So I don't really get to see as much of the changes. But I will say more when we look at some of the statistics that have come out. It does look like the Me Too movement has made some significant impact since the origin of the Me Too movement, the term coined by Tarana Burke in 2006, and then sort of took on this momentum in 2017 by a post by Alyssa Milano, who simply posted Me Too, sort of opened the room and gave space for women to share their experiences. Now we have 24 states, including the District of Columbia, that have passed 80 workforce anti-harassment policy and bills. So that's a huge shift. And another impact it's had, which is really great, because I think a lot of times, not just in terms of harassment and inappropriate experience in sexual abuse in the workplace, but just any type of retaliation in the workplace is sometimes pretty common. Toxic environments and making workers feel like they can't make a complaint, whether anonymously, because some companies have these anonymous hotlines or where you can call in, and still people don't feel comfortable. So the fact that there's now more anti-SLAPP laws, which are meant to protect survivors who are often targeted by defamation repercussions or defamation cases on speaking out from speaking out. And oftentimes, statistically, it's been shown that 70% of people in the workplace have reported that as a result of making their complaints or making known their experiences, that they've experienced things like demotions or changed hours, less work responsibilities, or sometimes even denial from being promoted. So I'm really happy to see that nationally we have made some changes. And what's really also encouraging is not only did the Me Too movement affect the US, but it had an international impact as well. So you have Me Too movements that trended around the entire globe. And you have several other countries that have made similar transitions or shifts towards protecting not just women, but any minoritized groups that feel in some ways hindered from making complaints and sharing their experiences. So now we're in this post Me Too, or are we in this post Me Too movement? I mean, there's been a lot of celebrity based cases that have gone out since the Me Too movement. Some of them may come immediately to mind. There's an ongoing case now involving a hip hop artist, a major mogul Black celebrity. So in some ways, you can argue that maybe we're not past the Me Too movement because there are still active cases coming out and very public cases coming out. The question is, how has the Me Too movement changed the dating rule?
I think the dating rules in general are just like in constant flux. And so it's like, a girl can't keep up here, but it's interesting that, I think it's multifactorial in terms of when you think about if we're even post. I don't think we're post the Me Too movement because I think there's still women are coming out, but are women being believed, right? And that's still something that's, still puts folks a little bit on, on watch and on guard.
Right.
The other thing I feel like that's, people talk about less is that more men are coming forward, right? And we don't, I think it's giving space for men to say, hey, this is not appropriate. And so
Right.
for me as a woman, you're used to being like, objectified. I have to watch myself too and make sure I'm not perpetuating the same things that will make
Right.
somebody else uncomfortable, right? I think it's made me more introspective. I don't know if you were aware, like recently there was this viral TikTok about they were questioning women if they would rather be in the woods with a bear or a man.
There's a very interesting discussion occurring right now, and it asks women, would you rather be stuck in a forest with a bear or a man? And 90% of women have said the bear, which has led a lot of men to say that women are lying. So let's dissect it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And by and large, we want him to be with the bear. And I think that speaks volumes, right? Like, I think there's still an element of feeling unsafe around men in general. And I can attest to that. And from my own personal experiences that you tread lightly and you're just, kind of on guard until you feel like, hey, this is a safe space for me. Because I think what we don't educate men is that consent is something that is ongoing, right? And I think we'll be in a post-Me Too era when men are teaching their boys, women are teaching their boys that, hey, the sex talk includes consent, these types of things that are usually largely put on the burden on a woman to have that shared burden. I think it's a place that would make me feel like it's that we're post. I don't know if I answered the question all the way, but
no, I think you bring up and I'm so glad you brought up that bear versus man controversy that has a lot of men in an uproar
and their feelings.
They can't
like, welcome.
Yes, I mean they are in a uproar because they feel like, how is this possible that you're going to choose a bear over a guy? And what people don't seem to understand is that the statistics are actually in the favor of a bear. So when women say that we feel safer around a bear than a man, it is not just, casual conversation or a flippant comment. It is solidly based in statistics. When you look at the fact that in the United States, every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. Every 68 seconds. Okay. 1 in 5 women, 24.8%, have experienced in the United States some type of sexual violent act, whether it's completed or attempted rape over their lifetime. Whereas you look at the bear statistics, and it's not necessarily saying that all those numbers are necessarily men, but the majority of these cases tend to be men as attackers as opposed to the opposite. And when you look at the bear statistics, you guys, in North America and globally, there's an average of about 40 attacks per year with the bears. So the bears are winning. Okay. The bears are winning. There's estimated 750,000 Black bears in North America, and they kill less than one person per year on average. So women are right. We're safer with the bear. So if I had to choose between a man and a bear, right now, the bears are winning. Okay? The bears are winning.
The bears are winning. I'll take my chances.
I'll take my chances with the bears. Okay? Yeah. And so I think, and I've definitely heard a lot of men share, and I speak more often to men of color. So this perhaps may be a reflection specifically of men of color who have a unique experience when it comes to sexual assault cases historically. And so a lot of them have felt that since the Me Too movement, that they're not quite sure, even in the workplace setting, how to approach or how to not necessarily approach someone in the workplace setting, but they're more cautious as to what they say. They're thinking twice about, and this may be a good thing, but I think this does translate also into the dating scene. And like you're right, and like you said, the dating scene has definitely changed and evolved rapidly. Like primarily we're virtual. And so take this with a grain of salt because the interactions right now is basically a swipe. And so there's not really an approach, so to speak. But for those of us who are still traditionalists, those old schoolers of us who like the one-on-one interaction,
meet in person, yeah,
who like to meet in person, may like a speed dating event. A lot of men are feeling more hesitant to approach women. And so the question is, what would you advise to men who may be hesitant to approach a woman in this new environment, post or transitioning Me Too movement timeframe? What would you advise men to do so that they don't get mistaken?
Yeah, I think I had this in the context of dating, I had this very interesting interaction with a fellow who told me he didn't have he didn't believe in having women who were friends. And I thought that was shocking almost, because I have
That's interesting.
Friends who are men, they're platonic friends, and it's not an issue. Who are men, who are other or them, like I think you need to know how to respect somebody as a person. And I think that is where, for me, I was like, I can't proceed with this situation because I think he looks at me as my gender. My gender is the only part of my identity, and I'm a whole person, right? And you have to be able to look at women as people, like
that part
who matter, who have feelings,
that part,
and
who have thoughts, who contemplate things on a variety of topics.
Yeah, we're not just genitals, and like incubators for your unborn children. So I think when you like just first sort of frame your mind with this is an individual, right? Like, with feelings and complex emotions, simple, like all of the things, right? So that's thing number one. I think changing the way you look at women. I think thinking about the women in your life that you care about, I hope you have at least one that you can say, well, if somebody approached my sister or, my aunt, my niece like this, like, what would I tell them? Because this is somebody you're thinking about as a relative, right? And you're thinking about them and you care about them in that way. What would be something that you feel like would be appropriate in that situation? If something is giving you pause, don't do it. If no is a complete sentence. There's always been this idea of, which I think we're coming away from,
Mhm.
but not quick enough, about, just playing hard to get, or,
Oh, yeah.
this, enjoying the chase. Like, you have to know if somebody is not interested, when do you step
Yeah.
away from the situation? Like, it's not always a game.
Right.
Like, so,
It's not always a mystery.
yeah, we can articulate what we want. We don't need you to convince us of otherwise.
And if you're not sure, just be upfront and ask, are
Correct.
you interested in me? And when
Correct.
she says no, then she
Correct.
means no.
Correct. I
Yeah.
like
And
that
that goes
checking
both ways.
in, that checking in, and it's like, how is this, like we can respond.
Yes,
You know, um,
yes, yes. I like that. And sometimes you feel uncomfortable with asking immediately. Like
mm,
you've been, perhaps gone out on a few dates, and you may be wondering, is this going somewhere?
mhm,
You may want to check in at least maybe by the third date
yeah,
to see if there's any interest at that point. And if there's expressed interest and you go on a few more dates, then check in again to
yeah,
see if it's leading towards what you desire. Because some people date just to be dating, and other people are dating with the expectation of it leading to a relationship.
right,
So I agree with you to be upfront, be bold, ask. Don't try to read between lines or interpret behaviors, or go home and try to dissect someone's body language. um yeah, that's not going to work, because you may be wrong.
yeah.
So where you will be right is having a actual conversation, which people don't really have nowadays.
They
People
don't.
are not having conversations. They're
They're
having
not.
swipes and likes
Correct.
and
And I think that's like the whole global
and
thing.
thumbs
It's just
up.
like, or we like just converse in these little snippets, and it's
Yes,
like you have to be comfortable with getting to know somebody, right? Because even this idea of interpreting somebody's body language and intent, you don't get to know somebody unless you spend time with them, right? And so,
absolutely. That's true.
you
That's
know,
true.
setting up an
And it,
environment that person feels safe. We talked about that earlier. I think where it's interesting is, I remember saying this, living in California versus being in New York, you get a lot more
mhm,
catcalls in New York because, the New York guys be in the streets like, hey girl, hey shorty, what's up?
they don't
Like,
care.
and I never thought I would miss that until like
They
I
have
lived in
no proof.
California and there's like nothing, right? And I'm like, am I
Right.
still a living, breathing? And no, but it made me think like, eh, there is, because that's not what you don't want is like, so for example, there's this thing that women are doing, and I don't know if it came across, my sister told me about it. Like if women would see men that they find attractive, they would like give them a dap, like so they could just walk up to a guy they find attractive and like,
Uh-huh.
give him a handshake, just to kind of let him know I think you're
Oh,
attractive,
yes, I saw that trend. Yes.
right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so yeah, and I enjoy that. I think we should, there is a way to let somebody know that you find them attractive or you think they're,
Mhm.
that they're good looking without crossing that boundary of making them uncomfortable. Uh,
Exactly. I like that. I love healthy boundaries. And I do want to make mention of one advice that I think people sometimes overlook as well. Well, actually, two things really quickly. So, one, I would say at the point where you are having a personal conversations or personal interactions with someone, get out the DMs. Like folks who DM you who actually have your phone number. Like,
People do that?
yes, including people who I'm not dating, like who are friends. I'm like,
Yeah,
girl, just message me.
yeah, yeah.
Like, can we get out the DMs? Like, I'm just like, I would say once you make once you have some type of personal contact with someone, get out the DMs and go into that personal text messaging and build some type of relationship.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Right.
my second major recommendation to men is don't send pics unless somebody requested it
Request,
or given consent. Okay. Do
request.
not send those pics,
Mhm.
because what a lot of people don't realize is that is considered to be a type of sexual violence.
Correct.
It is called technology facilitated sexual abuse or sexual violence. So if you're keep DMing someone, which happens more than we would like on the social and the media, and they are not responding, they may have muted you, and you won't know that you've been muted. So stop sending the messages because they probably are not interested. Lesson number one. Definitely don't go and send harassing information about their body based on what things that they post, especially people who have to have public platforms.
Yeah.
Do not make comments about their body parts. Do not make sexual comments that are not invited, because that is a form of sexual violence. Do not send pics unless there's been an invitation sent, because that is a form of sexual violence, sexual assault. So instead of getting in trouble with the law, just read and follow normal social societal boundaries. Okay.
I love that you said that. And again, like you said, the dating scene is changing. Just knowing knowing what is actually considered assault. And even you can't post or
You can't.
use somebody's pictures that they sent to you and post it publicly. Like, knowing these types of rules can keep you out of trouble. So it's like a sexual assault type charge.
It is. It is. Oh my gosh. So, for those who are wondering, what are types of technology facilitated gender-based violence? It takes many forms. And as we just mentioned, sextortion is well, not that one, but yeah. Well, I guess it does qualify as sextortion. Sextortion is one, image-based abuse is another, doxing is one. So publishing private personal information, which is considered doxing, that qualifies as a form of gender-based violence. Because we're in a new generation, just to make sure that people are aware that there is a category that's technology facilitated violence, because we're in such a technology based world, and these things are still crimes. Now, the legal system is still catching up with how these crimes are being punished, if these crimes are punishable, and if so, how, but they're still considered to be crimes. So I would just say, if you won't, I like what you said, Dr. Noel. If you won't appreciate someone doing it to your family member, then it's probably not the right thing to do. Follow your gut. Just be smart. Use some basic wisdom about it, and don't get in trouble inadvertently. Yeah. And that's our advice to y'all.
Be safe out there, guys.
Be
Successful.
safe, enjoy your dating, get out there, live a little, enjoy the dating scene, but definitely don't get in trouble. Okay.
Yeah. Those pics to yourself.
Exactly. So, Dr. Noel, if they wanted to tap into and see what's going on in your dating life, I'm teasing, but if they just want to tap into you and see what's going on, is there a way that they can tap into you?
I have no DMs to slip
Are
in.
you still on social media?
I'm still on a social media break.
I love it. I love it. Listen, I am so jealous of that. I need a social media break myself.
When I'm back on the streets, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Listen, stay off the social media. It's way healthier. It's now become such a toxic world to be in.
Yeah.
If I didn't have to, I wouldn't be. So you enjoy your social media free life.
And will be outside.
Right. Be her outside, okay? Where the real life happens, okay? And I am Dr. T, the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump Club, right here on YouTube, and also the hand behind the handle of Healthy Bump Club on Instagram. We thank you guys for watching. Hope we brought some clarification in this not really post Me Too movement time era. And we hope you check out some of our other videos where we talk also about other types of women movements in this society that you will want to check out. And we hope to see you guys when the next episode. And